NAL. You know who you are. That's right. We're in person. We're in the NAL studio. It's great to be here. We are a little over halfway done with our day of matches today. Doa, Cookies, Jacob here with you on the analyst desk. But this is it, perhaps, the moment we've all been waiting for. Going into Oxygen versus TSM in just a moment. But before we get there, let's go back and kind of review, regroup, and kind of like discuss a little bit the day we've had so far. 3 matches down, 2 more to go in the day, and it has been a roller coaster of emotion, right? There's been some expected results, but it's also been some kind of surprising ones, hasn't it?
So far, I don't think absolutely no one would have expected that Astralis Sonics result. Like, that's the one that jumps out at everybody. The idea of Parabellum and Beast Coast, that result, again, we went the full 12. We could have seen overtime, and genuinely think it could have swung either way, but ultimately, I think the right team, like, in my head, I feel like the right team still won, in spite of wanting to root for the Parabella Cinderella story. Beast Coast played a phenomenal game on Border.
Yes, I concur. Yes, we know Parabellum. They are missing their Blaz, even though Chip said, "I don't care if they have Blaz. Blaz is like a really good player," whatever he said.
That's what the man said. Yep.
They're missing their guy. They're probably going to be better when they have their guy. Beast Coast couldn't have afforded to lose that one, right? So, yeah. And of course the DZ Mirage game. We just talked about that one.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, that's the thing, some expected results, Beast Coast versus Parabellum, definitely the closest one we've had so far, but I would love to see this next one be close. And let's kind of get into it now. Of course, we got the world champions, the SI winning TSM taking on Oxygen, another team that people have really talked about as far as the strength goes. Obviously, TSM, what more can you say about this team? We'll get into it a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about Oxygen. So, Cookies, you and I were talking, and you were telling me, in your opinion, this might be the best version of Oxygen we've ever seen going into the season?
Yes, sir.
Big statement.
Well, I am the resident Newers expert.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I watched Newers in a league. It's called SCS, okay? I'm not trying to just plug the league or anything. That's a league where Challenger League teams and our illustrious Tier 3 players, which include a lot of talented players in their own right, they all kind of mingle together and play in a league with a pretty significant prize pool and stakes. Newers went plus 70 in a league full of CL players and all-star T3 players. And if I'm OXG and if I'm in the scouting department for Oxygen Esports and I look at that and I need a player and I don't actually look into this guy, shouldn't have a job. But they picked him up, so that's really good from them.
Yeah,
and
right, they did the right thing. Huh?
It's an instant pickup, no brainer. And of course, Dream from Mirage. I'm sure Mirage, based on last game, they're missing Dream. Maybe just a little bit.
At this point, after that game, probably a bit.
Dream left in the middle of the night. They woke up in the morning and his bed was made and he was gone.
It's like a dream.
It's like
just,
what happened.
It's over when you wake up. Yeah.
He's gone.
There you go.
Magic.
Exactly. So, we were talking about this a little bit. And so, do you think the Oxygen changes, the roster changes, is going to make this matchup closer or farther apart?
Definitely closer. I mean, historically, we've always seen them go blow for blow every single time. There's a game from 2020, like a best of 3 that still stands out. Both of them already knew they were qualified for the next event. The game didn't matter. They still went overtime on all 3 or something ridiculous. And that same level of consistent gameplay has been a thing every time both teams have played. TSM, they just won the world championship. We don't have to restate their pedigree or their history. But for Oxygen, the argument can be made that the players that they picked up are in fact better than the players that left for XSET in a lot of ways, even if Newers is still very unproven talent. They're pinning a lot of hopes on this guy being as good as he's been advertised, so we'll see if that holds true.
All right, well, first we have to see what the map is going to be that they're actually going to play this series on. I think we're ready to check out the bans with that. Again, 9 maps in the pool. We're going through all of them, ban, to see what we end up playing on. We've seen a mix of things today, some surprising picks. We did see the Border early. We saw the Skyscraper a little bit. We saw Bank. That's a map I think people are a little bit more familiar with. But what are we going to get this time?
Well, Clubhouse isn't exactly one favorite to either side. Chalet was one that they typically also don't play too much of, and if they do, it's usually TSM coming out on top. Through to Oregon, through to Villa, there's a very high chance we're going to see another one of those new maps now in the infield at this point. OXG seemingly banning out a lot of maps that TSM are usually very favorably hevered on, Chalet, Cafe, and Villa. All maps that TSM are very proficient with, and no Skyscraper in the pool. OXG decide we also need to ban Bank. They banned all of TSM's really good maps and decided the only real option was taking us to a map that we've not seen in over a year. So that's the kind of risk that OXG are running with because they know how good TSM are across the board with this ban phase.
We're going to the theme park. Cookies, who is going to be more amused?
Man, I told y'all earlier about how it's an arms race when it comes to new maps. OXG was the winner, I guess, of the arms race originally with Chalet.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about Chalet right now. We're talking about theme park.
Well, no, true. They did adopt it pretty early.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll do the same here.
It's entirely possible. If you do what they just did, they could have chose Bank, which is where, I mean, if we want to briefly talk about DZ, DZ recently smoked TSM on Bank, if I recall, right?
Yeah,
they could have taken lessons from that maybe for Oxygen. But they just said, hey, you know what? Roll the dice. Go with this. Go with this brand new. Well, it's not brand new. Nothing changed.
I do like the play. I mean, obviously, because we haven't seen Theme Park in the pool for a while, you would hope that they'd also be able to employ a lot of the same set, like what they used from over a year ago back in the NAL in 2020, like the end of 2020.
Wow.
You'd hope you could reuse a lot of what brought you success. And I do think TSM and OXG, like neither of them were like adverse to playing this map. The win rate statistic eludes me, but I do think that it's kind of like for them going back to old hat. I remember like TSM would play DZ and these maps would go on forever, and maybe we'll see the same thing here.
Well, yeah, like I was saying earlier, I feel like we've seen the games be quicker than I ever remember Siege games being in the past. So maybe it's the attacker repick, maybe that's part of it as well, but it just seems like people are more aggressive lately. Maybe it's the start of the season, maybe everyone's just excited to get in there, but let's talk in particulars about Oxygen, right? We've already mentioned it a little bit, but looking at this team, looking at this roster, we mentioned it so far, you know, Yoga and Kino rather moving on, Newers and Dream stepping in. What does that give the team, Jacob?
Well, Dream coming in is a bit of a question mark because when he played for Mirage, he usually did it in a support capacity. He would usually anchor, sometimes would usually be tasked with breaching and planting. That's something Foxy has already done to a really good extent. It's given OXG some grounding and a lot of realistic expectations for the future, and it got them a win and elimination over Damwon Kia of all teams at SI back when they were on a huge hot streak and everyone expected them to win. So Dream coming in may be a harken back to when he used to play on Tempo Storm and he would frag out on Ash. Like, he's capable of doing multiple things. Newers is very cut and dry. We know what he's going to do. He's here brought to frag. He's meant to be a better Yaga if possible, but where Dream fits in the mix is a little bit of a different story.
Right, so let's actually move things right along and talk a little bit about TSM in a moment here too, because the players are ready. We want to get into this match as fast as possible, right? So let's talk TSM. While we're going to look at Oxygen for a second, but let's talk TSM. Cookies, TSM, man, they won the Sixth Invitational. Like,
okay,
well, first of all, that was a hard sentence to say. First of all, stop laughing at me, casters. It's my first day, all right? Anyway,
give him a break.
They won SI. There seems to be a bit of an SI buff from time to time for doing that. You seem to get some momentum going into the next season. Is that going to be true with TSM?
I think so. I think they have found the perfect recipe. I think for many years, I mean, quite literally, because it's the same roster, many years.
Right.
This team, I was a good roster that they had originally had the idea for and came up with. The results didn't speak. They didn't have the ring. They didn't have the ring on their fingers.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's a lot of teams that would have maybe panic buttoned, made a silly decision or two. Maybe they were close to doing that, allegedly. I don't know. But they stuck with it. They fixed things internally. Merc, IGLing.
God, it was such a sight to behold in Sweden, man.
You know,
it was so good to watch.
I kind of want to talk a little more in depth on that because it's like, as someone who's a really good fragger, it's something like, for example, Nyx tried to do.
The whole entry.
I don't want to slander Nyx. This isn't a Nyx slander stream, but Nyx isn't Merc, right? Merc was making up for it in the scoreboard, right? He wasn't necessarily sandbagging on the entry. He's actually performing in that regard. One of the best entry players in the world.
Yeah, he's turning it into something.
Yeah, and he's able to I don't know what brain chemical it is. He's able to he's able to find out the victory conditions in the round from that fragging position while still doing it well. Gotta give him his props, and I think, and that's why TSM is pretty good. It's the recipe for success.
I think we also need to talk about Achieve's hair situation there. Jacob, you want to fill the people at home in with what's going on there?
Yeah, so midway through SI, Achieved essentially said, if we win this Sixth Invitational, I'm going to shave my head. I'm going to do it. Beard, hairstyle, everything. It's all going to be gone. And we all went, oh, so now we're going to hold you to that because you win and you won the Sixth Invitational. And true to his word, he did it. He even said, I think at one point, he was like, yeah, I kind of didn't want to win, but at the same time, I also wanted the World Championship, so even at like the cost of my hair, we'll work with it.
I think
So
it's worth it.
he kept that promise. He kept that bet. He made sure that all the way through to the end, he was able to like bring home a World Championship with these guys, and his performance is so good. It's really hard for some people to pick out who's the true MVP for TSM from SI. Is it Merc? Is it Achieved? Both of them were statistically incredible, impact everywhere, but they both played very different roles, and it's kind of hard to figure out which one of them is like, quote-unquote, the better player. You don't really want to make it that arbitrary, but still, Achieved in tandem with Merc was fantastic last month.
Now Achieve doesn't even have his hair weighing him down either. So, advantage per se, a little bit lighter on the looking around the screen perhaps. I don't know. Let's find out what our predictions are going to be. And, of course, we got to throw it over to our casters first. It's going to be Blue and Stokes sitting over there. How's it going? Are you ready? Are you ready to make some hard choices here?
I mean, this is the tough one, right? This is like the first game. We've got the world champions up against like a really aggressive, really high-tier roster here in the region. So this is a tough one in terms of where this one's going to end up for me.
Yeah, absolutely the case. I mean, especially with what Oxygen's done in the offseason. I don't really know what's going to happen, Doa. Personally, I'm feeling like Oxygen could really do something, but that doesn't mean I'm going to choose against TSM. It's got to be TSM for me. I mean, come on. They just lifted a Hammer, guys, and a Chief's Bald. I mean, what more could you possibly want?
I'm gonna echo those same thoughts as well.
And the bald part?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, why not? Yeah.
All right. I mean, so that's it. I feel like that's a pretty easy choice. You know, if you're going to go with the world champions, even if they're going against a strong team, it's kind of hard to bet against the reigning champs, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I suppose. All right. Well, quick and easy from our casters. Maybe not too big of a surprise, but the two of you, Cookies, Jacob, what do you think? Who's going to take it?
It is kind of criminal to think the reigning world champs won't win their first game back.
Of course.
This is, I think, a better overall OXG squad. That's not a slight to Kino or Yaga either, but the way in which OXG play probably means that long-term we will see this OXG squad blossom into something beautiful. Just not in this match. I'm pretty sure TSM will take it, even if it's off really hard scrap. And I do remember the times where they played Theme Park in the past, whether it was against SSG or it was Dark Zero, whoever it is, the map does kind of make the match for me. So I'll give it to TSM, even if it's kind of slightly on SI winning principle, if that makes sense.
Now, Cookies is giving me a look right now.
You know what I'm about to do.
Does that mean
He's gonna do it again.
Does that mean you're not going to go with TSM?
Put the card down.
What are you thinking? What's going on in that mind right now?
OXG's going to win. OXG. The OXG new map theory.
Okay.
And Newers is like, here's the thing. Newers is either like.
You are banking a lot on Newers being a
I'm
world
telling you,
champion
like,
right now.
I'm telling you,
World's
this
biggest
guy,
Newers fan.
I could not believe what I was watching. Usually, I know I'm way too generous and I say everyone's the greatest, but out of all the pickups, I think Newers is probably the best one. Out of all the new names, he's the best one, guys.
They're hoping he's going to be the second coming of Bolo. Like, we haven't seen someone come into the NAL without any prior CL experience since Kansan, and we know how that turned out. And it was Bolo before him. But you're really hoping that a rookie who never even played in Tier 2 is about to beat the world champions.
I think it's also the dad factor. You've got
All right.
Laxing and Fox.
dad
not like
factor.
that. Not like that. Laxing and Fox.
No comment. No comment.
Laxing and Fox are gonna have that guy. They're gonna have him in the right headspace. They're gonna have him doing the right things. They're gonna have him playing smart. It's not just he has to run in and do whatever. So that's why.
Well, we got one more entity to make a prediction.
Stop.
That is, it's an inanimate object, I know, and weirdly enough, it's landed on heads every time today, which has been strange. So to shake things up a little bit, we've got heads here, we've got the Lady Liberty, and we've got the eagle on the back for tails, of course. So I'm gonna say heads OXG, tails TSM.
This is where you take responsibility for it, because if you're the one calling it and it lands on heads again,
In our graphics though, it always put OXG first, so I'm kind of doing it the right way either way. So I'm sticking with it. We're flipping it.
something fishy
Heads.
going on here.
Let's go.
It's tails. It's
There
tails.
we
The
go.
coin says
Thank God.
TSM is going to take it. All right. Interesting. We even tried to switch things up on the coin. I don't know, and it still decided
That
to go
coin
with,
has
the
a
favorite
record as
team.
good as me right now.
There you go. Well, that's the thing. Our analyst better the coin flip? Yeah, you be the judge. Let's check out our community poll for this particular game, and it's quite a spicy question. You can go on a date with another.
Bolo, he's
Wait,
rich.
would it be
You gotta go with Bolo. He's like
Fox
he's
or
$1 million.
Bolo? All right. Do I dare make you answer that right now? I'm a little bit scared.
If you don't vote Bolo, you're crazy. Like, come on now. He's taking you out.
Okay.
Easy Fox
To be fair, Foxay and I are good friends. I can't not pick him. He's just that attractive.
Okay.
I got to do it.
Fox has been
I got to do it for the homie.
All right. Well, before this gets any more uncomfortable, we're gonna send it over to our casters to start
That's
this
true
series.
love.
Oxygen
Foxay, I love
versus TSM World Champs going up against a revamped Oxygen. Let's see who takes it. Casters, take it away.
Thank you very much, Doa. We're actually going to keep the uncomfortability level rising here. So, Stokes, who would you rather go on a date with?
Man, see, I think I got to think really hard. Honestly, I'm going to say Foxay.
I would do the same.
You want to know why?
Why is that?
It's not even the money factor. I'm no gold digger, first of all. Secondly, if it worked out with Foxay, Davide, our kids, oh, they look so good, man. They look so good. You guys, imagine Foxay with my blue eyes. I mean, come on. It would be over for everybody. It'd be over for me.
I just picked him because I think he'd take me to a better restaurant.
Dude, he's got fantastic taste.
Yeah,
I mean, let me tell you, he's got like every spot in Vegas down. Now, Jason Doty, though, I mean, nothing against Jason Doty. I think that he would take me out, but I think that, like, it'd just be a one-date thing. I think he'd take me out and be like, yeah, all right, and he'd leave. So...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got this fantastic matchup teed up and pretty much ready to go here between TSM, the new world champions of Siege for the 2022 season, up against the new roster of Oxygen. Still that same core three that you guys know and love at home, but with two new Gunners joining them once again for the 2022 season. Let's find out if that prowess is going to be enough to best the world champs as we head into their first game on Theme Park.
All right, well, as we get Theme Park warmed up here with these bands, John, how are you feeling about these pickups from Oxygen? I figured we'd discuss things, especially around Dream and Newers, quite a bit. I want to talk about Newers quite a lot just because he's one of the only three people we've seen skip over T2. And, I mean, Cookies is quoted saying this. I'm just going to say it. Cookies literally said he is either one of the greatest players to ever play Siege or he was cheating online. So, like, I am expecting so much out of Newers going into this. But the same can be said about Dream in a certain capacity. I think Dream is such a stellar player when it comes to Rainbow Six Siege and his mindset about the game. To have him on Oxygen with such a solid core, I mean, this could be a force to be reckoned with in North America.
I think even aside from in-game factors, too, I feel like Dream is personality-wise going to end up being a very, very good fit for the OXG roster.
He's almost like a dad.
Yeah,
like almost.
Like I think in terms of, like, you know, having like a lot of experience, we've been around the scene for a long time. He's going to fit in well with that core three that's been on the team for obviously a very, very long time at this point. So I think that's going to end up meshing very, very well. We'll be finding out, of course, in just a few moments here. Already well through the ban phase. Not a lot of huge surprises in that phase, folks. So I'm going to explain why you didn't really talk about it a whole lot there. The only real one of note is going to be the Jackal ban, but makes pretty perfect sense when you think about the map that we've gone to and how heavy roaming presence is going to be for the defenders, pretty much regardless of the site we go to.
Yeah, in case you aren't up on Theme Park inside of competitive play, still in the rank pool, but just hasn't been in comp for a little while. Not a single dang thing has changed on the entire map, folks, from the last time that it was put into competitive play. So very similar strategies, although we might see some new, tidbits here and there, but it's still going to be the same game overall, which is really worried about this top floor, worried about the long angles that you can establish here on Theme Park, and trying to get the proper, information to, innovate around those and try and get yourself into the map. There's a lot of moments for the offense to really screw things up and lose quite a few bodies.
See Vertical making a nice choice here and bringing the IQ into the fold, as there are going to be Capcan traps along with a whole lot of other pieces of utility to be scouted out here. Pests on the Mozzie as well as the Yokai drones from Chala. IQ will end up being very useful inside of this round specifically for OXG, so a good choice to bring that in there. Aside from that, though, operator lap that you would very much expect to see on the attacking side of most maps right now in Siege here, so no real surprises there.
No, not at all, and as to be expected, Oxygen are going to be taking their sweet time with this opener, trying to find as much info in the initial part of the building as humanly possible. Vertical getting even more so with this scanner from IQ, as he'll be keeping a hold of quite a few different things around the space, including Bolo, as he turns on and off that ERC-7 backpack. He's waiting currently right outside of Cash, just waiting for someone to walk in off of the Cash balcony.
He's got this tiny little angle to try and catch Nurs or another one of the member of OXG, but so far, no dice on terms of any entries coming in from our attackers just yet. They're taking their time. They want to try to isolate Bolo if possible as well. So more than likely, very well aware of his position. I'm not sure if they got an exact intel on it. We are going to see that default finally get taken down. So Bolo will know that Newers has entered the building, but won't be able to do a thing about it as he gets the headshot to knock out Bolo and strike first here for OXG.
Well, it's worked out well for Oxygen. Patience game paying off, and now they've found Bolo, but still a lot to do. It's going to be a thrown offense, so it's going to be all about breaking up these back walls. It's either this or we see teams tend to go for yellow. We going through the throne plant here as they'll clear things out above a frag grenade in for good measure just to make sure no one's going to be tossing nitro cells back as Geo tries to get rid of this exothermic via the impact trick, but it just does not hit its mark. And now the wall open, a huge hole in the side of TSM's defense.
A 1-to-1 exchange will go out, though, as both Merc and Laxing are lost from either side. Some respect from Laxing, we give it out in the chat there as well. But Vertical will continue to strike through for OXG. Another one potentially coming in for TSM, but not going to be found as Chala cannot complete the spray against Newers. Achieved will finish it off, though, by knocking out Dream instead. And that will also deny the plant as we come down to the last minute of play here, with OXG not having a whole lot of time to correct the mistake and the very important loss of Dream for a few seconds ago. Achieved dashing out of the way of that nade, saves his own life, but another one is going to come his way and knock him out on top of Newers' other pick. His other pick. That is going to lock down the round from OXG, and they don't even seem to be like, okay, I guess that's how we win the round there, as I think that frag grenade kill caught them off guard at the end of it there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just dumping those in towards split, but the patience of Oxygen inside of that round is the thing that we definitely want to highlight. I mean, especially the amount of time that they took with the cash balcony to make sure that they were not going to overstep when it came to that situation with Bolo. I mean, because literally one thing goes wrong there, and Bolo just takes a round from you. So they just want to make sure that nothing goes wrong early on, and they did a very bang-up job of that, constantly applying pressure to the TSM setup and inevitably pushing them back to site and making it very difficult for them to try and fend off the Oxygen offense. I will say, though, TSM did throw quite a few interesting looks at Oxygen, the biggest one being the move from Achieved. If you didn't see it, he moved over into barrels and tossed the nitro cell back over the barrels wall for thrown instead of playing on site with that. So a fantastic read from him inside of that situation, but it did not garner around at the end of the day.
So TSM falling just short at the end of it due to the good entry power from OXG. Knocking out Bolo without any response being seen from him, and at least one or two other members of the team also getting caught off guard. There are not a lot that they're able to do in that situation, so they end up going down. We did see one repick from OXG, I believe, here as Dream ends up going over towards the Maverick. A second one was done as well to bring the Ying into play for Vertical.
And again, this is something that we're going to be seeing throughout the year, and it should be very, very interesting when it comes to our offensive side and the way that the IGLs want to work things. You know, it could be easier, it could be more difficult. That's really up for you guys at home to decide, as this will be the first time with us casting with this. Obviously, the players are going to have a little bit more experience with this as they've been screaming with it for the last couple of weeks here. But as we continue throughout the year, just look to see more strategy around that as it gets more deeply involved into the game. So for Oxygen, as John was saying, only a minor switch up on the two ops here, but one of them could bag some pretty big frags at the tail end of this round if the Candelas go off without a hitch.
Candelas, once again, more likely going to be kept in the pocket here for Vertical until very late into the round here as they inch closer to the site. But at the same time, this is where we've actually seen Ying played previously when this map was in play for Pro Play. I believe this was used to kind of dump over into some of the side rooms next to the site here, and we can see Newer is already in position to try and catch rotates from that angle. So we'll see in a moment here how this is going to be used. You see the extended setup a little bit more obviously now there as we panned over to it for a second, as you've got a deployable shield and a few other pieces of utility supporting this extended position from TSM. OXG needs to flush this out as quickly as possible, as it's going to cause a massive amount of delay, and it's here on the inside of initiation where most of that fighting is going to be done.
Still a minute and a half to go here as Oxygen is at the gates.
Oh.
And Vertical as well as he tries to work his way into waiting, but the toxic smoke will take him out instead, and now the Oxygen bodies start to fall. Merc will pick up one with Jaeger as Geo, manning the security door for the moment, has an opportunity, but Dream wins it out instead. A beautiful frag from him, but Oxygen still a long road to go.
Yeah, unfortunately losing the Candelas before any of them could even be used, I believe, as well there as we see Vertical just waltz right into a smoke grenade, and then on top of that, I think it's hit by a couple of bullets to knock him out. Not the greatest stance for that utility, but the good news is other members of OXG are here to pick up the slack. Foxay with the most recent kill finally deals with the smoke presence, and Laxing finds another one as he makes his own solo entry over towards the upstairs cafe, knocking out Bolo and bringing the numbers into the favor of OXG at a 3v2. But with only 45 seconds left to play and minimal map control, there's still plenty of room for TSM to bring this back.
Those held angles coming back to bite TSM, but they still have an opportunity to close this out. Laxing dealing some serious damage to Achieve and tries to hunt him down on the arcade balcony now. Merc, he'll double back over inside of waiting as Achieve gets taken down, but no way that he stops this plan. Only some damage onto Foxy, who continually swings the waiting door. Merc will finally take him down, but on lower HP now, so it's going to be quite a risky one. No one on drones either when it comes to the offense here, so everyone flying blind in this situation, also except for Achieve, who could possibly be watching a rotate cam. Instead, though, Laxian will take him down, and Oxygen will pick up the round.
A fortunate double take there for Merc at the end. If it had the right angle, just couldn't spot out Laxing, so he gets away with one more in the dying moments of that round. Great play from him. Like I said, that solo re-entry over towards Cafe side added a new dimension to the attack that TSM were not able to deal with. And this is on top of those great plays from Foxy over by Initiation side, where the team was struggling to gain map control themselves. With both of those controlled, however, the pinch to knock out the remaining members of TSM was not too much of a problem, and OXG was able to eventually negotiate a second round for themselves.
Now, just as a reminder for you at home that haven't seen Thame in a little while, this map did tend to be defender-sided when it was originally inside of competitive play. As of right now, though, it's looking like Oxygen is looking to run things up on this offensive side, so it could just be, you know, a couple of those bruises still healing from trying to get back into this map here, whereas Oxygen might have just made more headway inside of this situation. Cookies could have done it yet again here, but we're only in round 3, so I won't call it too early.
So as I have Goyo in play, for those who are not aware of the recent changes, Goyo has had himself a pretty big change added in, and you just saw it on your screen there. It's the fact that they were going to see the canisters no longer be attached to shields any longer, and now they are individually placed pretty much anywhere you can put any other gadget down, and of course you'll have to ignite them still by shooting them, but the time that they actually plume and sit on the ground has been increased by a massive margin. So the delay capability of Goyo, in some extents, has been buffed, and we're going to see him kind of work his way into the meta, I think, in some useful ways as a result of that.
Excuse me, I would completely agree with you, my friend, especially when it comes to the time that it takes up. You know, I don't think I've ever seen a piece of utility in this game last as long as that thing does, especially when it comes to delay tactics. It's truly impressive what you're able to achieve with that nowadays, but we'll see if TSM can put it to its fullest effect inside of the Cafe space, as Oxygen already working themselves into the map. We're only 45 seconds in here, and Newers looking quite similar to his last 2 rounds. This will stand inside of Bathroom. Won't have as much, you know, TSM occupancy as it did once before, so a little bit easier for Oxygen to actually traverse this space.
I think it's great that we see them go down over on the Cafe side too, because it's potentially just like an infinite number of, or an infinite amount of delay time. Should we see Laxing try to go in there on his own as well, TSM can kind of have a good insurance policy in the event someone tries to push in late there, and that would allow them to keep their extended setups alive. For the most part, OXG are going to be avoiding that. Fox, they just getting used to that LAN hammer still. Some of the gadgets work a little bit differently on our LAN client, or at least they feel like they work differently, so you'll see like things like that happen occasionally. But
no excuses. They play LAN all the time.
That is true. I agree, but every once in a while you still get that occasional miss. Not a big deal though, as it's quickly corrected. And Newer strikes true, but the nade goes in. Does not strike a kill though. Merc is going to be able to keep himself alive, but Dream, along with Newers, were able to get 2 additional ones elsewhere on the map. Achieved as well, striking back for TSM. Big play, of course, you can see here from Chala, has the headshot lined up pristinely against Newers and takes him out to give TSM the advantage at a 3v2. Now the dust has finally settled.
TSM looking to take their very first round here inside of round 3 with some very considerable pickups, especially for Newers here. A fantastic gunfight from Chal as he double back on the angle. You know, it's a little bit easier for himself, forcing Newers to swing into him instead. Masterfully done. In a way, though, with the dying moments, Oxygen has to get something done inside of this 2 versus 3, as he'll try to push in through Throne. Do they know Geo's here? What a shot from Vertical to equalize. He's going to take quite a bit of damage on top of that, though, as he's down to practically 5 HP.
OXG not giving up just yet, especially with the frags they were able to find for themselves inside of that last fight. They know that this is winnable, and they're certainly going to go for it here. Vertical, as you mentioned, though, it's such low HP, will have to be careful. However, it's not going to matter too much with Laxing's most recent pick, and the nade from Vertical striking true as well, landing right on top of that last member of TSM. OXG cannot be defeated, it seems, as they come back and take yet another round against the world champions.
So, Can I go back in time and repick my team? Is that okay?
I think most of us want to do that right now.
Dude, the coin wants to go back and be flipped again. That's how crazy this is right now. And Poge is going to agree with us. It's going to be a tactical timeout here for the TSM FTX side as well. There's quite a bit to talk about. This team is being decimated by Oxygen right now, even inside of rounds that, well, it just frankly shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, certainly the case, and it's happening in pretty straightforward ways here too, for the most part. OXG isn't throwing some incredibly insane strategy at them. They're not doing any, the nade usage is certainly something to talk about. We can bring that up in a moment. But for the most part, their clears are fairly straightforward. Drone in, directly contest against the extended setups. Cool, they're cleared out. Now let's focus on the site, move forward from there. Cool, job is done. End the round, and we've got control 9 times out of 10 so far.
Yeah, it's been extremely impressive from Oxygen, especially because, guys, this is a new roster. I don't know if you guys remember that, but this is a brand new Oxygen roster, and they look like they've been playing together for, what would you say, John? I'm saying 6 months. Like, they legitimately, they legitimately look like they're on the exact same page throughout all of the round. There has not been an oversight, all except for, I believe, that one round where we saw Vertical step up into waiting and die to a toxic babe that he shouldn't have. That's like the only blunder that they've had throughout this entire map so far. So I'm extremely impressed with what we've seen inside of the first 3 rounds, but we still have to have TSM on their offensive side. Hopefully they get some defensive rounds before that happens, though.
TSM trying to figure out, of course, how to leverage the pressure from this extended game properly. So far, it has not led to a whole lot of success, some even trades at best, never really taking a huge advantage, though, say for that last round, where even with that 2v3 advantage, Laxing was still able to pull off a double kill inside of the round to make up the difference and allow for OXG to excel here. So TSM really needs to try and secure an advantage and then potentially give up that extended play relatively quickly here so they can play off the numbers game and eventually lock down this site due to just an overwhelming force inside of the site itself here. OXG, though, will proceed as usual. They've been having no issues whatsoever after that initial clear is done, and they're going to look to repeat their success now on the first rerun as we return to the throne room here on round number 4.
Wouldn't you know, we'll be starting things off in the East Cache balcony yet again here. We'll see if Oxygen takes as long as they previously did to get as much information on deck as they once had. Bolo's going to be back in the same position, so this round initially is going to look quite similar to what we saw the last time, unless somebody loses their life inside of that engagement, but fortunately enough for both of them, it does not happen early. Frag grenades now for Newers, as he'll dedicate his second one, actually, of the round already, as he's dried up that frag well.
Away from that, though, both teams seeming to give each other quite a bit of respect at this point in the round here. So neither one wants to be the first to test the extremities of the positioning of the other. TSM actually pulling back incredibly much from what we saw back in round number 1 here, where we had Bolo maintaining a direct contest against this balcony approach, but no longer going to be the case. They are well back, if not already having rotated back downstairs on the arcade side, so that is going to continue to be a problem here for OXGs. They won't have any clean path forward in terms of who they know they need to knock out. That'll more than likely change, though, once they figure out the position of players like Achieved, who is now going to try to get himself into his first volley here, trying to once again take a fight across the hallway towards control, but won't be able to line up the shots against that player so easily. Meanwhile, OXG says they're not going up against anything upstairs. They'll first, of course, have to dodge that nitro cell. But once they deal with the utility, just like that, they'll get the Exo down on the ground and should be able to open up this wall. There it goes, and the pressure starts to broil out once again against TSM, as Geo now has to hold the line against the breach wall.
Has been fantastic from both of these teams, as TSM has been able to maintain their lives, even though Oxygen has been able to get these walls down. Now it's up to them to try and figure this out. As Oxygen, they're starting to open up quite a few different avenues they could possibly abuse against these TSM positions, specifically Geo, locked inside of Throne as of right now, having to worry about Dragon Door as well as the breach of the actual throne room. Frag grenades, even more so, being dedicated to his position. The earlier 2 ones all the way upstairs, and now in behind the bomb chassis, he has to make his last stand, but can he bring some bodies with him? That's the real question. Not a kill on the stage just yet, but he's looking for it in the moment.
So tense between these two teams. OXG knows there's a massive defensive setup waiting on the inside. Geo, though, finally gets his head clipped off after so much anticipation. It's Newers to get the job done, and now the floodgates are open. In is going to come the OXG roster as they look to take site control. Achieved, and a few other stragglers are holding it back. We've got the Yokais that should be able to interrupt this first plant attempt, coming low on the timer. Nitro's out, and that'll get the job done as well on top of the Yokai charge. Only 10 seconds to attempt another one. It's going to have to be Vert, but never mind. He goes down as well. There's no time. No one has positioning. Newers gets cut off trying to revive Vertical, and that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Time will run out. Laxing's kill won't even matter as TSM finally locked down a site with their return to the throne room.
Insanely well done from TSM there, especially with the call that they had inside of the early parts of that round. They did not want to show face to Oxygen and give up these kills, and that's actually what wins them the round. All the way down at around 25 seconds is when we see Geo actually die. And it takes forever for them to find their first pick, and although Geo doesn't get a kill, this is all time wasted for Oxygen. They get down to the point where they can only really make one plant attempt, and as soon as that goes awry, there's nothing really they can do. They have to re-challenge into TSM. There's so many members holding not only the Dragon Door, but also the Breach. It's nigh impossible to take all of those gunfights at once.
Not to mention, again, no top control had been maintained here. Actually, also didn't really want to test the waters as far as the setup was concerned with the extended roam upstairs. They had to worry about that as well. They had to keep flank watch active as a direct result of that. So never really had the ammo they needed to force themselves into the site, overwhelm Geo, despite the fact that they had both Dragon Door and the wall breached open there. You still had the potential issue of Achieve playing from across over inside of the armory room, so it was just going to be a rough execute no matter which way OXG attempted to swing it there. TSM, nice adjustment to play cool, calm, and collectively avoiding fights instead of actively seeking them out, and that changeup has in large part won them their first round here as they go up to a scoreline of 3-1. Still a lot to be made up, of course, but they're on the right path, especially now that they're going to be continuing to repeat sites.
No considerable switch-ups in the offensive lineup either. Newers will continue to play out the Finka, and Laxine will bring the Nomad once again here. Speaking of Laxine, 6-1 at the current moment, starting the year off strong here after a pretty convincing performance at SI, so looking to do it all over again with 2022. The drone game now warming up for Oxygen as they'll find some insight onto Merc's location here inside of the bathroom upstairs. It'll be up to Newers to try and solve this equation. Some more drones try and patrol the area. Works his way in towards Cash. Worried about that angle in from waiting, and he dang well should be. That's one of those ones that can be tricky every once in a while as you try to cross through that room. And speaking of tricky, a Nitro Cell from beneath. Foxay will get taken down. A possible res coming through, but instead it's Dream to fall from Geo.
Geo with a nice find there, as we will see Foxy get brought back up with the Adrenal Surge being used from Newers instead of wasting all the time it would take to normally pick him back up. They need to do this a little bit more quickly, as I think they're worried about TSM getting hyper-aggressive after that first kill and really trying to clamp the jaws shut on this attack before they can even really start to taste the food here. For the members of TSM, they're going to continue to leverage the aggressive pressure, starting with Merc here on top of the stairs, but he's going to bite off a bit too much in this situation. He ends up going down,
Ooh.
but great utility coming out there. The Toxic Babe may have very well just saved Merc's life. I'm unsure if they're going to actually go for the outright res, but they may not need to. Chala sniping away another member of the OXG roster. It's Newers most recently lost, and Merc is now back up and in the fight, so TSM still at their full 5 roster.
This has been fantastic from TSM past this timeout. It seems like Poge had really activated this squad here. They're back on their stuff, and let me tell you, it seems like that's exactly what it's going to take out Oxygen, as Laxine, he's continuing to fight. What a shot from him, as he'll take down Bolo as the opening pick for them, but with only a minute remaining, Oxygen still has so much to go.
So the second one there too, as he tries to build up the courage for this swing into initiation. It's such a tough angle, and we talked about it already in a previous round. Vert's going to try to add a new dimension to this one as he swings in. First target's down, but we see the trade from Geo as he continues to hold the wall in the back of initiation. Geo, he's got a perfect angle to counter out this swing. Should we see him go for it? Vertical commits. That's a triple on the board now from Geo as he once again holds the line inside of easily the most pivotal position in the round here. Laxing still looking to make up the difference as he finally knocks out Achieve, but mind you, Geo is still a problem, and you also still have Merc sitting inside of the site. But with all of that said, this is palatable. This is winnable for Laxing here as he swings around. There's the first kill. Now he just needs to take out the one that has been plaguing his entire roster throughout this round here. Will he be able to find Geo? No, he won't. Then unfortunately time is going to run out without case control. He can't even attempt the plant, so TSM get a second round at the null timer.
Yeah, that was all on Geo inside of that round. 0 to 3 kills inside of that one. Making a huge stand inside of initiation when TSM needed it the most. That case defense will go down, and highlights for this one here. So we continue to see if they can possibly get the equalizer. Oxygen out the gates looks so fantastic, but now that TSM's got their feet under them, it looks like Oxygen, ball in your court to try and fix this one, as they're going to have their very last offensive round right now, round 6, as they will be attacking the basement here, and for the very first time, it will be Drug.
We're going to see them return to this site here since the first time since back in the third round. So TSM will be locking into this one. Once again, we'll see the Goyo, well, what would have normally been the Goyo shields. Now it's just the Goyo canisters, the Volcan canisters, if you want to be specific about it. So we'll see those get deployed all over the second floor, as it was more than likely used back inside of round number 3, and see how this delay potential can potentially screw things up for OXG. The two that were placed inside of Cafe didn't really see a whole lot of usage, so I imagine those positions are probably going to shift, and it looks like that is certainly going to be the case, as yellow is instead going to be the place that they are going to burn both of these out and try to waste the majority of OXG's time bank, as this is the direction they cleared on the previous attempt.
Yes, indeed. Now for Oxygen, as you said, attacking this the second time. A little bit of a blunder for me. Completely forgot about that frag grenade play that we had seen previously. But either way, we'll see if we get it yet again here, as Oxygen will be attacking this one for the second time. More aggressive front here from TSM as GOB back towards the top of Dragon Stairs, of all places. The Cam to be able to assist a little bit. Also an air jab out. Won't be able to be picked up from Geo, but I don't know exactly if he's been droned out just yet. There it is finally have some info inside of that initial space that Oxygen is looking to occupy.
So a fairly uneventful opening minute or so here, as TSM, obviously, as you guys probably caught on to, back at round number 3 and 4, realized that the aggression being thrown out from them was not the way to play this, and they needed to hold back. They needed to try and wait out OXG's own moves a little bit further into the round before they tried to get aggressive. And so far, that changeup has worked out brilliantly for them, netting not just 1, but 2 responses as of their retries, starting from the 4th round. Looking to make it a solid 3 here and even out the record versus OXG, but they'll need to lock down this remaining minute and 45 seconds in order to do that. So far, doing a fantastic job, once again, of wasting the time, and more importantly, not showing face against any of these more aggressive peaks for the members of OXG. They have really been struggling to find their entries ever since that 3rd round, and this one is going to be no exception to it. Neuras, though, with the good exchange, very much needed, and Laxing, the rock of this team, once again showing up as well, knocking out Merc, and finally turning the tables on TSM for the first time in quite a few rounds.
This has been problematic inside of this one for TSM, kind of similar to what we saw the last time inside of the drug defense, but still have some opportunities to try and fight back, especially with Achieved inside of barrels in the moment. If he doesn't get found out, this could be a frag that they desperately need at the time. Laxin will move in through Cafe. Achieved now trying to work his way in through Throne as well, so switch gears here away from that original position that we saw him. But Oxygen, we gotta start hightailing it towards the site. Obviously, do have some time to be able to get some intel inside of this space, but exactly how much will TSM allow them to have? Really need to try and find this initial pick. So many audio calls right now for Achieved. Might be a long-distance gunfight in from the stairwell here soon.
A little over 30 seconds remaining now for OXG to work their way in. They don't want to throw away the advantage they have. Geo, a critical mistake as he fires out a bullet just a second or two too early, giving away his position. And as you saw, of course, allowing for that massive exchange of bullets there, which does not go into his favor. And Vertical now takes him down outright. But here comes that delay potential. One of the Volcan canisters being blown up. It doesn't even matter. You see it there at the very end. OXG pushing directly through the flames and knocking out the last member of TSM regardless. It's a rebound from OXG as they take the lead at halftime, just barely though, at 4-2.
That was some incredible damage coming from that Goyo shield, though. It got all of those Oxygen members so very low. Just unfortunate for TSM that they really weren't able to capitalize on any of that. But a fantastic offensive half here for Oxygen, as they made it work when it came to theme park offense, and that's something that was a little difficult the last time around. So we'll see if it can continue on here for them. But obviously, it could be just a switch up with what we've seen inside of the meta as well. Frag grenades have become extremely prevalent, as well as a lot of LMGs that not only have more bullets but more damage output than basically every weapon available on the defensive end. Even if you are taking some of those longer angles to try and contest the offense, I mean, they're still going to be able to give more than they get in a lot of different situations, and that used to be the most difficult part about Theme Park, was dealing with these extended angles and where the possible positioning could be of the defense that could just be that thorn in the side that you really didn't want. So, I mean, for OXG, what a fantastic half from them, but they've got to seal it out here on this defensive end.
A couple repicks coming in there for TSM as they primarily switch from hard breach emphasis on Geo over to anti-roam, and then Chala as well. Didn't catch the operator he was on previously, but he is going to go over towards soft breach instead now. More utility deletion more than anything, as he will be bringing the Flores in for this squad here as they try to use that to sneak into the site and knock out some of these more pesky pieces of utility. Most notably, the Banshees coming out from Newar's is probably going to be prime target for those explosive drones, along with a few other pieces of the puzzle.
I do believe that this is going to be our third Flores ban today as well. You and I got one, and I believe they had one as well. So no one really appreciating Flores when it comes to the offensive side. But, I mean, it makes so much sense with how, prevalent those Rotero drones were, especially at SI. We saw it used constantly to try and get rid of deployable shields and make the defense's life that much harder. But you could really say the same thing when it comes to Finka. I'm really surprised that we didn't see her banned out a single time today with just how, prevalent she's been inside of pro play overall. We see her time and time again just because of how much she has inside of that kit. It's like you just went to Costco and bought everything you could possibly need for years.
So we're going to see those explosive drones, the Rotero drones, start to be used here, and pretty much exactly as I was talking about, immediately targeting out those Banshees. So we'll see the first one dealt with, and that'll open up the arcade window hop for TSM to utilize. They're also going to be trying to open up cafe access for themselves here, and we'll see that with the Aruni Gate getting dealt with first. The swing is there, and what a lock-in for Bolo, immediately deleting Vertical's head as the intel is clean, and so is the shot to get the opening kill of the round at TSM.
Well, that'll be Bolo's very first kill here inside of the 2022 season. Not really something I thought I would be saying at round 7, but yet here we are. Newers, what a shot on T'Challa, and now TSM, they're falling to pieces. Achieved, he nades out Merc, but now before they get yet another, it's still an equal matchup in between these two, minus possibly the headspace of TSM, but these are hammer lifters, although Newers doesn't really seem to give a damn. He'll take down Achieved, and now it's up to Bolo and Geo to try and work their way out of this one.
Newers becoming a huge problem by the arcade stairs here, and still hasn't had any damage really put onto him. Not anything considerable anyway. He's still going to continue to play aggressively. Geo now leaping towards the inside of the break room here. He's going to look to move himself forward as well, but has to be so careful. This is a blind entry from him, and he doesn't catch it. Laxing hiding behind the chassis, and Newers, of course, to get one more onto his own counter before the round closes out. Look at OXG, man. They are having a ball of a time right now in this game, just laughing it off every time they close out a round.
I am floored by the confidence of Newers inside of this matchup. Not only that, but just how natural it seems for him to be on the stage. I mean, he just so nonchalantly is slapping TSM. It's fantastic to watch. And honestly, I'm extremely excited for Oxygen. I feel as though this roster, at least for a very early take, they look fantastic. I think that these moves that they've made inside of the offseason, they could really pay off some massive dividends.
We'll be paying very close attention to that as the season moves forward, of course, but for their first match, this is a absolutely brilliant performance so far from the OXG roster, both on the attack and defensive side. Yeah, some adjustments need to be made and whatnot as we saw their kind of strategy on the attacking side falter a little bit as we got closer to the end of the first half, but that's to be expected of any team, and considering how early on OXG probably is informing strategies for this new map, still pretty respectable effort being brought out there inside of the first half, and things are looking even better, I would personally say, based on the first round of play for the defensive half. Let's see how that continues to evolve, though, as we're judging a lot of only one round and still plenty of play potential here where TSM can not only win a few attacks, but also come back and maybe surprise us with an outright win.
Yeah, they could possibly get back into this one. You never want to count TSM out, especially after they just recently picked up a hammer about 40 days ago. So, pretty heavy piece of hardware, if you ask me, when it comes to Siege. But for Oxygen, it's like we were talking about in the previous round, that really doesn't scare them, especially for someone like Newers. Again, this is somebody that did not even touch Challenger League, folks. He's currently 9-4-2 up against the world champs in Rainbow Six Siege. It's been some fantastic stuff to watch, but now that we're about 25 or rather 45 seconds into the round now, TSM, they've got some heavy lifting to do on their side past that hammer. Need to try and get some of these opening bloods in their favor and not have this roam game of Oxygen thwart all of their game plan.
So things will be very quiet inside of the first minute of play. Not even really going to see much in terms of entry or map control being maintained by TSM. That'll start to change here as we enter the second minute of play, with Merc, of course, working himself to the inside of Cafe, and now can actually self-drone to continue moving himself forward a little bit. OXG holding a lot on the back dragon stairs, that lined hallway as well, transitioning between control and over towards cash. So that's where we're going to see the large majority of OXG's player count continue to exercise themselves and try to waste the time away from TSM when the need should arise later on into the round. TSM even starting to open up some top-down real estate for themselves also, since they've been given free reign over the cafe as well as the arcade side of the map. So they'll be moving forward fairly quickly to try to knock out any further extensions, any further utility that they'll have access to. And then, of course, look to make that transition down to the first floor to start moving into the site.
Use some of this verticality. Everybody else push back downstairs. Try and collapse towards the actual site. Try and flush out as many people as possible. It's all about trying to abuse that verticality along with this game plan. And so far, so good for TSM. The only problem is not really able to get a pick until Chala is able to right this very wrong. It'll be vertical to fall first here. 5-5 currently for him, so definitely showing up inside of the kill department, but it's going to be up to the rest of his squad to try and take out TSM.
TSM's slow approach, yes, it has netted them the opening kill of the round due to Vertical kind of moving out there, trying to get aggressive himself and paying the price for it. But now how are TSM going to be able to carry this forward? Mind you, you still have 4 members of Oxygen in one of the most lockdown sites in this game here. They were trying to deal with what should have been an Electric Claw in the hatch, but doesn't look like they were able to get access to it. As we see there, Geo finally moving away from it. Foxay, though, able to strike true here as they'll start firing back. Bolo is just going to try to force himself in, but instead, it's going to be Merc over towards Dragon Door that has the proper cross to deal with Noors. A second one found from Bolo as well here, and Bolo now adding more to the counter as he's going to continue to rip his way through OXG's defensive setup. 15 seconds remain, however. Foxay could still clutch this one out as they haven't figured out his position just yet. There's the first find from him. The second, no, not to be seen, and Geo will trade it out as TSM brute force their way into the throne room to pick up a round.
Very well done from TSM, especially those last kills coming through in the dying moments. Able to knock Foxay down into the 1vx situation, and almost an impossible situation at that. TSM starting to get their feet under them on this offensive side now as well. So looks like we could possibly have a map on our hands, folks. TSM looking to try and get closer to equalizing here. Is only 2 rounds away, but obviously still a long road ahead of them in that same breath as well. For Oxygen, they're not going to go back towards the same site inside of Throne. Oh no. Instead, they'd much rather go upstairs and towards Initiation, as well as, well, actually, the other side's actually escaping me at the moment. I know it's Initiation Office or something along those lines. I think it's Office as well, but it's been a little while since we commentated this one. Either way, you're mostly dealing with the push in from the east. That's a default way we see a lot of teams try and take in via that cache balcony. But we usually do end up seeing like kind of a pinch-esque play come in through this cafe space later on as well. Just kind of depends on the team and the way that they want to try and deal with this top floor setup.
All right, so for TSM, still looking to really excel themselves forward, and we're going to see a couple switches coming too, in fact, as Chala as well as Geo both going to switch over into hard breach positions for this site instead of what they had previously selected. So we'll see that a little bit of extra utility come into the fold and hopefully allow them to deal with the more tightly locked positions up here on the upstairs site that members of OXG have decided to play into. Newers wants to take a very close contest against anyone that would try to enter in over here on Dragon's side, but at the moment not looking like he's going to be tested from that position here. Everybody from TSM bypassing him and looking to make their first advances elsewhere on the map, such as the cafe side, where we have 4 players from TSM very patiently waiting for their opportunity to move in. And I'm sure we'll have their 5th player joining them relatively shortly or trying to work their way in through the roof hatch.
Slow and steady for TSM as of right now, and you're more than likely going to be seeing this with quite a few theme park attacks. Not only TSM, but practically every team when it comes to this. You really have to know what you're walking into when it comes to a map like this. So for Vertical, he's going to be working on the cafe space, and this is exactly why that drone information is so very important. You can't just come swinging willy-nilly into an area like this with the amount of different crossfires and supporting players you have for this Oxygen lineup.
Despite the nades deployed from TSM, not really going to be able to do a whole lot with. The good news is just flash dumping for the most part from Geo to try and bait out some of the utility. A magnet from Vert connects to the wall. I don't think he intended for that to happen, so that one's going to get shot out very quickly by TSM also. And you can look over to the utility side of things, still 4 frag grenades available for TSM. So once they're able to clear out the majority of this utility, they can dump those frags in, and that can cause a whole lot of havoc as far as OXG's defensive setup is concerned, specifically Verticals as well, as they have not been able to push him out of position just yet here over on the cafe side. And of course, you just saw it yourself. He's supported by not just 1, but 2 additional members of the team. Foxy a little bit closer towards Arcade, and 1 more further down that balcony. OXG have read into the situation from TSM. Well, yes, we've seen Bolo rotate himself over here on a catch side, and 1 more player will be joining him. This is a very slow process of change-up that will more than likely get caught by OXG here, so TSM needs to be a bit more forceful with this if they are going to try to suddenly change things up and move players to the other side of the map.
Yeah, as of right now for TSM, I mean, they finally get this pick, but that was so slow for a moment, it was almost detrimental, just because the amount of slowing things Oxygen has inside of their lineup. It could almost mean their demise, but now they've taken smoke down, this gets a little bit more palatable. We'll have to see what they can possibly do unless Oxygen have a chance to fight back. But now when Mergic's shooting like this, we'll take down Newers. Vertical with a chance here, an opportunity to take out the player inside of Cafe, but the plant's going down, and it doesn't seem as though Oxygen knows just yet, but now Laxing with a huge Nitro cell. The shots will go wide, and now it's just up to Lax with very minimal HP. The LMG sings, and he will fall. It's a 5-4 score line in favor of Oxygen.
So I'll correct myself. Never mind, then OXG do not catch the adjustment from TSM as they try to pinch from both sides instead of forcing their way in entirely from the Cafe end of the map. That additional facet being added from Dragon's side allows for them to really pinch out some of these positions from OXG, specifically the in-sight positions, and then the stragglers, specifically toward initiation, just do not have enough fight left in them there to counter it back out once the trades start rolling in. Great play from TSM, a very slow but obviously hugely impactful change up to the strategy, puts them back in a winning position here as now OXG are going to call for the pause as they're about to lose their lead. They want a clean closeout on this matchup, so they need to take a moment and figure out how exactly they can approach that.
Well, not too much changing on Theme Park for really either side.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen some more aggressive showing when it comes to, you know, how forward people are with the initial space that we see the entries happen, like mostly Cash Balcony, right? We've seen a lot of play over towards that area, but I mean, it's not that far of a call from what we'd seen previously with a lot of, you know, long angles and that kind of stuff established in that same space. So past that, I mean, it just feels as though this map really hasn't changed up too much, even though we do have attacker repick in now. I mean, really, it's just back to those methodical offenses that we're seeing both of these teams use, TSM in that exact same boat when it comes to these clears.
All right, folks, well, it looks like we are unpaused now and heading back into the game, so let's go ahead and check this out and see what exactly OXG is going to be changing up, and not a whole lot here as far as the style is concerned. Still a lot of utility mitigation brought in between Laxing as well as Vertical. Newers is going to head over onto Malusi, however, in order to bring the Banshees into the fold here, which is going to hopefully slow the advances of TSM when they try to brute force their way forward in areas like Cafe as well as the back Dragon push.
Yeah, and just speaking of Laxing for a moment, I mean, look at this scoreline in the moment.
13-3
and 0, John. That means he doesn't need a single person to help him get killed.
That's pretty in character for Laxing, though, I would say. The 0 assists. I mean, that's been like kind of like the talking point forever about Oxygen, is that Laxing's like this lone wolf in a lot of scenarios, especially on the defensive side, where he's allowed to just kind of go off, do what he wants to do, and the team just trusts him to make impactful plays. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. That's how this team has worked for a very long time.
And not only that, but that's how Laxing's played the game for a very long time, to the point where he is so good at this style of play that he is one of the top 10 most highly successful players inside of SI history and just Siege history in general. A top 10 player overall, which is truly impressive, especially for his tenure in the game.
Absolutely the case. So Laxing going to see if he can do that once again on the inside of round number 10. Things starting to get a little bit drastic for OXG. As I talked about previously, only one round of advantage now built up versus this TSM roster. And TSM is playing a style that's a little bit hard to predict here too, because they're not trying to play hyper aggressively. They're relying on mainly intel in order to get themselves to the inside and find these opening kills, meaning that there's not a whole lot going on that OXG can actively respond to, as that wall just does not want to break for some reason.
That's very interesting as well, because it's a DMR. You'd expect it to just pop like a cork, but I mean, apparently not. Those things are fantastic for hatches nowadays as well, for some of those viewers that don't get to play as often as others. But minute and 40 remaining here for TSM to get things going, but as expected, they're going to be dedicated to the info game to see exactly the way that they can take this building away from Oxygen. As Oxygen, I mean, they've just been chomping at the bit for these fights, especially Newers on this defensive end.
Newers once again looking to get aggressive, and he won't be alone in that either. Laxing now starting to move out. It's actually going to be Vertical of all people, though, that ends up striking true here, catching Merc out first. I believe over here towards the Cafe side might be where things end up transpiring, is they'll lose a very important piece of the puzzle to the Zofia now down. That's someone you want on the front lines here, able to stun out your opponents, but no longer is that going to be the case. And unfortunately, not a whole lot aside from that TSM have to potentially boost their entry capability. They've got frags, and that can be very useful, of course, but with only 3 flashes, you don't have the greatest capability to bleed out that utility. So if Magnets or any one of the Aruni gates ended up surviving the encounter, we will see that immediately flood back in the other direction here. And OXG will be more than ready to take a fight against a direct attempt to swing back in. Geo, meanwhile, is going to take his own note on things. He moves directly in from the Dragon side and is going to swing forward all the way up to office here. So once again, a lot of free real estate found after they waste time trying to work their way into Cafe.
Quite a few problems here inside of this situation for TSM to solve, and very low time in order to do it, as it falls quiet across the entirety of the map, minus some torching and some frag grenades going off. But Bolo, that might change up for him soon. Coming in through Cafe, has someone to worry about on his arcade balcony, but Yellow as well, as Foxay will remove his head for him. Only 10 seconds remain, and that means that all hands are now on deck for TSM. They have to find their way into this site, but they're getting dusted at every single corner. Newers! Oh my! It's a triple for him, and just another day in the office for the T3 man, as he will yet take another 3 kills and give Oxygen their, well, penultimate round.
Yeah, and a surprising lack of anything at all coming out from TSM in that round, just kind of sitting outside for the first 2 minutes, and then that last minute trying to force themselves into adjustments that ultimately don't work out. Like I said, that kind of knee-jerk reaction to move over towards Dragon's side of 2 players pushed in from there. Okay, they've got some basic capability to work their way into the site, but no real, anything to build off of. No great routes to use their nades from. No ability to kind of flush someone out, as we're constantly seeing be the case back at SI. It's not working as prominently here anymore, so TSM are sitting outside, of these fights and of these 1v1s wondering, what do we do? And they just don't really seem to have an answer right now other than brute force it in the dying seconds of the round, which goes pretty much as you saw right there, giving Nurs a pretty simplistic triple to shut down players rushing directly at him.
Yeah, I think what you said in the earlier round just strikes so true in the moment. Not having Merc there to be able to handle a lot of these situations where you could concuss somebody, get rid of, a hard-to-reach space with those impacts.
Open up some soft breach from range.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many different opportunities that only Merc provides inside of that situation, and having him be the first person to fall, that's almost all she wrote just from the jump, and then TSM has to try and go for a low-time execute because of how much time they wasted trying to find an initial pick, and it just simply did not work out for them. Oxygen was giving them nothing at all, minus, taking the bodies off of TSM's roster.
I do like the potential of the switch here coming in now, as we'll see a repick used for TSM to bring Capitao in for Merc specifically, and I think this is going to be an excellent choice. They don't have to be so selective about how they're going to be potentially inserting those. A little bit easier to potentially sneak that incendiary bolt into a corner, flush someone out, and that can finally act as that first entry or two that they need.
Oh.
Really, they need it now in order to get onto the board. As unfortunately for the TSM fans at home, it's Vertical once again striking first for OXG, and it's Bolo to fall once again also. That's not only going to eliminate Bolo himself, but the Finka's now gone. 2 nades deleted from the counter on top of those adrenal surges and the ranged revives that would come with them.
Yeah, ice in that man's veins. I don't know where they got the info from initially or exactly where the kill ended up going down, but it was right outside a cafe, so there was 2 different options. It was either the stairwell or he jumped up on the side piece and found him out near the teacups. Either way, fantastic frag for him, and one that I guarantee you TSM were not expecting to see, especially at a round count like this.
Timing a little unfortunate here for Gio, as I think the player he was looking to find might have swung out there just a second or two ago, but is not going to be able to catch it so easily here, so he'll have to move away from that once again. Other members of TSM still looking to try and negotiate as much control outside of Throne Room here. Foxay ready to chuck a nitro as soon as he hears an audio cue, more than likely. You can see the wall up on top has been peppered. The same route we were seeing impacts thrown through back on the previous half. This will be the first go of it for OXG, though, as they'll try to deny the opening of this wall. This is obviously a huge piece of the puzzle for our attackers. Flashes out, mainly as a sound mask, but here comes the nitro from Foxay as he sees the utility get deleted. He's going to chuck it, probably a little too late. No, never mind. Right on time, in fact, to deal with the Exo. But minimal damage done to the players, however. There is one more nitro available for Vertical, but I don't know if he's here to potentially throw it. We will see in just a second, as the nades are now going to be running out as well. Impacts instead, though, will do the job as they're chucked out, and I believe that also the lead of the Exo.
Yes, indeed. And now TSM, they're locked out of the site for the moment. Have to try and find a different way to work their way in, as they're trying to abuse this top floor as much as possible. Achieved seemingly unaware of what's going on inside of the area as he continues to clear that out. The rest of TSM just begging for someone to swing this throne door. Foxay, he's going to flirt with fate, but nothing going to happen to him as of right now. And here it is. Dream will take down Geo. Merc, he's up next. He'll take down Dream, though. Working the angle over for Split, but still so much has to go right for TSM inside of this. But no, Oxygen, they're just giving him the business. It's down to Merc, and he's not going to survive the shotgun shells of Foxay as he blasts him sky high. And Oxygen take out the hammer lifters.
Newers is ecstatic, as we see OXG shut down the world champions of Siege currently by taking control of their opening matchup, the 2022 season of the NAL. A massive congratulations to OXG as they come in with some storming aggression in the first half and an absolutely solid defense to round things out here. 7-4 is the final score, and OXG are the winners here today versus TSM.
It's so insane to me what we just saw from OXG, especially given the circumstances that we're walking into this match with. Dream and Newers just got here, and even Dream played a stellar game, but we basically never got to talk to him, or talk about him rather, because Newers was just performing so well inside of this match, especially with Laxing.
I would honestly say the entire team had their moments. I can't, like, off the top of my head recall anything from, like, Foxay that's, like, a huge callback or anything like that, but aside from him, there is, like, a specific moment I can go back to where it's like, oh yeah, that player, like, pretty much single-handedly either won or set up his team to win the round there. So some really impressive stuff from basically the entire Oxygen roster there, really giving us a show for the first game of the season. And for TSM, man, they have their work cut out for them here on, at minimum, Theme Park. I will say again that some of the setups and whatnot were a little bit brutal against them, so maybe they just weren't prepared to play into this map, but still we'll have to wait and see here because that is not a good sign from TSM.
Man, it's something about stage one. You know, I think it's just because it's springtime. You know, there's a lot of oxygen in the air or something like that, John. I mean, these guys have been so very impressive throughout all of today, and this is calling back to this exact same time as last year where we saw Oxygen take stage one. I'm extremely excited to see how this roster kind of, you know, fulfills its own prophecy, because if this is just the starting point, where are we going to end?
Yeah, keep in mind, of course, this team's still looking for a title after so many years. That Core 3 has been unable to achieve their goals after so much time together. Maybe this is the roster that can finally do it. We're going to have to wait and see, folks. But at the same time, in just a little bit here with the desk, we'll more than likely be having an interview with our winners. There's a stand by for that. Don't know exactly who we're going to try to get from the OXG roster just yet, but I'm sure we will try to get someone.
It better be Foxy. I got to ask him on a date, so.
Yeah, that's true. We gotta resolve that question at some point. But I believe that's going to do it for the two of us right now. Excellent game once again. We'll be back for our final game as well. But before we get to that, we're going to go to a short break. When we do come back, you'll have your analysis desk ready to break things down.
We are back here at the NAL. Doe, Jacob, and Cookies here with you at the desk. And guess what? Oxygen did it. They managed to take down the current SI champs, TSM. In it was close. There was some give and take. There was some push and pull throughout the match, but it looked fairly convincing at the end of the day, didn't it?
That's me underestimating Newer's impact, and that is a mistake I am never going to make again. Congratulations to him for actually pulling out a Tier 1 victory in that capacity. Even though Laxing had a higher KD differential, I'm pretty sure, that's still impressive as hell from somebody, again, who has never even played a snap in Tier 2. What a story.
That's
already.
right. And guess what? We have Foxa with us to chat a little bit about that series. Is over there in Vegas hanging out, coming off that win over TSM. Foxa, can you hear me, man?
I sure can.
All right,
There
great.
he
Hey,
is.
congratulations on your victory over TSM. I kind of wanted to talk attack timeouts, actually. It seemed like there was kind of significant momentum shifts after each one. You know, TSM picking up their first round after you guys went up 3-0. They took a timeout. They regrouped. They came back 1-1. Then you waited until it was like, I think it was 5-4. And then you took yours and started to kind of shift things back a little bit. So do you feel like that momentum is really kind of due to those timeouts? Do you think it's coincidence? Like, tell me about the effect that really has on a game like yours today.
Absolutely. I think the timeouts are momentum-based. I think especially with attacker repick, rounds can go really fast, a lot faster than they usually would. So especially when we went up 3-0, TSM calling the attack timeout, they probably needed a little more time to talk about how they were going to adapt to us, which they did phenomenally. The next 2 rounds, they brought it back to a 3-2. And then, you know, once we were losing some rounds, we decided to take the attack timeout so that we could focus on the main mistakes that we were making. So absolutely, especially now that the game's a little faster with attack repick, you got to use your timeouts well used.
That makes sense. We get what you're saying.
Yeah. And I think for today, like, a lot of the story is definitely kind of around how Newer's played, and I think a lot of the spotlight probably should go towards the new guy. But give me the skinny on the relationship on the team between you and Dream, because back at SI, you hard stuck the Mav, and then we saw Dream playing that. You were back on Sledge. What's the attacking situation between the two of you, and who's meant to be doing what?
Yeah, so we got Dream specifically to play support, and he also has capabilities in IGLing. He's a very vocal player. But through the process of getting him in Newers, we decided that we still want me to IGL, but we didn't want me to do it from a support role. So, you know, we're doing it just like Bio wanted to. I'm on the flex IGLing. So for the main part, on maps where there's only one hard support, for example, today we were only running one hard support, which was the Mav. We had Dream on it because he's the one that's going to be taking that. And then, for example, who knows, you know, maybe on other maps I'll be on other ops. Maybe Mav will come back, maybe Sledge, whatever, Ash. Maybe put me on Ash, you know? You never know.
I'm down for that.
Just like old times, huh? Well, I have a question about when Newers actually caught your eye. So who, like, I guess firstly, who was the one on OH2 who had the idea, the bright idea to get Newers, and at what point was that the case?
So we found out probably the last day of invite that 2 of our players were leaving. And then almost immediately it was like, okay, we got to get Newers. So we scrimmed them, I want to say like maybe a week before we left for invite. And Newers wasn't even, he was on a T3 team. We didn't know anybody on the team. And that guy was smoking us so bad that we actually thought he was cheating.
Yeah.
We started messaging other teams. We messaged like, I think we messaged SSG, TSM, all these teams were like, yo, like, who is this guy? Is this guy cheating? And everyone's like, I don't know, he's so cracked, he might be cheating. So immediately we were like, okay, we got to get this kid. Whatever we got to do, we got to do it and get him fast. So fortunately for us, he, you know, was still an available free agent, and it's better that his personality kind of matches with us, and he's also, you know, a pretty smart player. So we got really lucky. I messaged him originally, and he was like not really about joining us because, I don't know, he didn't see that us being like the team that would, I guess, match his play style. But then he gave us a try, and he, I guess, liked what he saw.
All right, fair enough. Well, I mean, no doubt he made a big impact today. You know, talking about other impacts, I don't know if you saw our community poll before the series. Did you get a chance to check
Please,
that out?
no.
Did you see it?
Nah, I didn't see it, but I
Okay,
know a lot of
so-
people were sleeping on us. Oh, the
I wasn't
community
sleeping.
poll.
I wasn't
Oh,
for
no,
those.
I was-
Oh, no,
I
we're
just
not
want you to
talking
know.
about
different, man.
in-game
God.
stuff
This
here.
is different.
We're talking about. and
Okay.
I've got some bad news, man. You lost.
Did I lose?
You lost this one, but yeah, it was close. It was
fine.
close. But so I'll give you a chance right now. You know what? So the question is, oh, you didn't see the question. Okay, the question is, you know, who would you rather go on a date with, Foxa or Bolo? And You lost that one. I'm sorry to say, but so I'll give you a chance here. I'll give you a
That's fine.
platform. Advocate for yourself. What makes a first date with Foxa the greatest night of anyone's life?
It really doesn't. I'm probably gonna try to split the bill. I'm all about equality. So I'll probably try to split the bill, and then, you know, I don't know. I feel like I can cook better food than most food at restaurants. So I probably wouldn't go for a normal date like that. You know, I'd probably have you come over.
Sure.
You know, something a little more intimate. Talk
So
a little bit. You know.
You would cook for them, but then you would make them pay for half of the ingredients, is what you're saying?
Yeah, probably. I probably ask for like a PayPal or something. I don't know. Just a little bit to help out.
Yeah, just PayPal. That's true. Yeah, that's fair. I'd say that's fair.
Bro,
All
that's
right.
good enough for me. Next time I'm in Vegas, you and me. I miss you.
Oh, there you go.
Sure.
Jacob
sure,
just
by all
asked you to
means.
cook for him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've been learning some crazy stuff recently, so you know,
Oh.
I'm always down to show it.
All right. All right. Well,
Tell me more about that later, babe.
we'll leave it at that. All right. Thanks for chatting with us, Fox. And congrats on the win. Good luck with the practice, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. See you.
Who came up with that question?
All right. I
Who
mean,
came up with that question?
just gold right there. Pure esports gold coming out of our community poll there. That's beautiful. All right. So on that note, let's get back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. As far as breaking down that series, I think we've got some stats to look at, got some numbers to look at with Oxygen versus TSM. Again, you know, TSM reigning world champions. Oxygen, such a strong team, though. You know, you kind of have to. I think you feel like you're obligated to call it an upset because TSM did win SI. But at the same time, looking at that series, Oxygen's just looks so strong, and the numbers don't lie.
Definitely an obligation to say TSM probably should have won the thing.
Sure.
I think part of it is also, as much as I looked at OXG, banning all of TSM's good maps is potentially a bad thing because they wanted to try something that was completely outside the box. This was a gamble that worked out really well in the long run. It's a map that I do remember TSM playing from back in the day, but it looks like OXG are far more dialed in. Part of that being Newer's being as on top of his game as he was, but Laxing still held down the fort. Most of his kills, he was like 9 kills over 5 rounds, and he was doing it on Nomad. Everything was getting funneled into him, so to speak. So I loved how OXG played overall. And it might be a case where TSM themselves, because they just won the World Championship, more teams are trying to look at how they won, VOD review them, understand their tendencies.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, they do have a target on their back. So I'm hoping this isn't the symptom of something more, but it could be.
Yeah, I want to say maybe that could be the case, but then again, this was a... How do you VOD review this theme park?
It was
you know?
1v1. It doesn't mean they're
I mean,
completely dead in the
It's
water.
entirely possible if we look at the whole repertoire of maps they had played at best of 3 today. Maybe TSM would have came on top, maybe. But I'm not taking away from Oxygen because you know what?
Yeah.
Newers, new crew for life, by the way. This guy, for the first couple rounds of that game, he just absolutely was dominating.
He's a stud.
He was putting Bolo, he was working Bolo like it was nothing. He was ego peeking Bolo.
Yeah, he had 3 entry kills in that first half, 2 of which were on Bolo. We were saying before, Newers kind of has to be the second coming of Bolo in the sense of somebody who's never played in Challenger.
his first kill was Bolo.
He came right up. His first kill was against Bolo. So if that's not like writing his story right there, I don't know what will.
Bolo 2.0 maybe. I don't know. We'll have to, watch a little bit later.
I don't want to go too far on that, but maybe.
Maybe. Okay, we'll see. It's only one round, all right? But
It's
speaking of,
1v01.
it is 1v01. Exactly. It's only one map. But speaking of rounds, there's one round in particular we wanted to take a look at. This was a pretty incredible comeback by Oxygen, actually. I believe it started 3v5, if I remember right. This was round 2 of the map that we just saw. Jacob, why don't you go ahead and start us off with this?
I mean, this is just a really good example of OXG corralling everyone into the bomb site a little bit after they've dealt with roam presence. But Cookies, this was something you specifically wanted to touch on, right?
Yeah, so this initiation hold out of Geo. There was a round where Geo actually iced up like 3 people from that spot, but this round he just dies there in 5v3. Probably didn't have to peek. Okay, and then Chala with his, what is this, a red dot, SMG-11, a curse. That's probably why he's about to get slammed here. Watch. Oh, what happened?
We saw it. Don't worry. It happened.
He says.
It happened. Believe us, right? But yeah, it was great because the thing is, they were down 3 to 5. Yeah. They came back.
Okay.
Here you go. We can continue it now.
Okay, Bolo. Okay, it was Bolo actually died there. Okay, Laxing coming from the other side. I mean, Laxing loves that. Let me tell you, Laxing just literally loves the misdirection. Some people almost criticize him for it. He's like he's not a into the action.
Sometimes
He's
they feel like he's too loose. Sure.
yeah, like he's away from the push or whatever, and people use that against him. Here, it's very helpful. As you can see, Cheetah's like, holy cow, I got to deal with this guy. They're planting on the other side, and that's just the power of Laxing in the flesh. And of course, Merc is just in a horrible situation there. Laxing finishes off a Cheetah on the opposite side, and that's just a perfect example. The classic Laxing mixed direction, and also some overpeaking, maybe from TSM. Maybe this is early on too. This was only round 2. Maybe they felt,
Yeah.
they had that world champion swagger, that world champion superpower actually cost them, because like I said, Gio probably didn't need to peak there.
Well, that's what I was
later
gonna
on, he was rewarded. He had a really nice 3K from that same spot later on, 4K maybe. I don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you think maybe there's a little bit of overconfidence from TSM today?
They can't really think that they're invincible. Like, in spite of
course.
that win, they still had doubters along the way. It was a fantastic tournament performance, but one tournament performance does not a dynasty create. As NIP themselves found out after winning Hesai last year, it doesn't mean an instant formula for success. However, again, we'll just hammer home the same point. This is one best of one. If you're a TSM fan or you jumped on the bandwagon after they won the Six Invitational, no matter where you came from, it's not the end of the world. Give it more time and we'll see where these guys adapt to, because they have a target on their back. There's no reason to think that this is the one time they're going to lose a game, but it's also not a cause for long-term concern.
Yeah.
Unless it is. But we're not going to find out until like week 2 or 3.
Time will tell. One thing for sure, TSM have a major target on their back coming into this one. Oxygen, the first ones to hit the bullseye. But we're not done yet. That's right. We got another match. We got the final match of the day coming up. Space Station Gaming taking on the new and improved X-Set. We're going to find out, I guess, so don't go anywhere. The final match of the day here at the NAL comes at you right after this.